Hi, everyone, and welcome to Lurking for Legends, a live video cast where we talk with people from all walks of the publishing industry. I'm Christy Stratus, historical fantasy and historical suspense author, and my awesome co-hosts are epic fantasy author Richard H. Stevens and sci-fi author David M. Kelly. Lurking for Legends is an interactive broadcast, so we welcome and we encourage viewers to chime in with any questions for our guests and comment what you hear in the show. So tonight we welcome back onto the show Anne Charles, and she is a mixed genre mystery author who we've had on before. And before we get to her, make sure that you stick around because we will be doing a live read of her latest book or her upcoming book. So don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for being here, Anne.
Thanks for having me back. It's I look forward to talking to you guys. You always have me chuckling about different things.
Yeah, well, we like to have a good time, you know. So for those of you who maybe didn't see our last, interview with you or anything like that, tell our viewers who you are.
Well, let's see. Sorry, my brain just went blank. We get thunder and lightning and rain here, which is weird in Arizona, but it's that. I guess it's that season. Anne Charles. I write multi-genre stories, mystery, supernatural, lots of action. A lot of times, humor is always in there. A little bit of romance, more in some series than other. And I have 5 different series that are ongoing at this time, which means I'm a little crazy all the time as I keep switching around between series. And one of the series I co-write with my husband, Sam Lucky, and that's the Deadwood Undertaker series that we're going to read from tonight, book 4. But mainly I'm AnneCharles.com, and you can go to my website and you can see all the different books I have with links to them. You can also see where I'm at online, which is, I try to be everywhere, but boy, TikTok, I just don't feel talented enough to be on TikTok. You got to really wow them. And I feel like a dud when I'm over there. But otherwise, Instagram, Facebook, all over the place. And I've been doing this since 2011 when the first book, Nearly Departed in Deadwood, came out. And I think this will be book 35 when this next book comes out.
Wow. That's just incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I'm old. I mean, I could get really close to the camera and you can see all the lines how old I am. But yeah, it's been a long time. I'm not a quick writer, so it's been quite some time.
So your next book is coming out. It's originally slated to come out this month, correct? And now it's coming out in October. And I feel your pain because my book is supposed to be out in April this year, and it's finally releasing at the end of this week. But so it's funny how
so
you're not doing too bad. You're only a month off.
I know. It's what was that? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's just been that kind of year. Everything we put a date to, and we even try to pad it a little bit. It's like life comes swinging in with a bat and just knocks us down. We're like, okay, well, we're not going to hit that deadline after all. So, yeah, it just seems like this has been the year of push everything back, constantly.
Yeah, I think we can I think everyone can understand, all of us here have been there. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hillary says 35 books. That is amazing. It is amazing. I'm wowed.
I mean, I always think that seems like a whole lot. And then I'll come across somebody who's like, I've written 70 plus books or 80 books. Just like, I don't know if I'll do that before I'm dead. So, every year that I keep living, that another book or two goes on that number. It's like, woohoo.
So I'm not trying to pin you to an age, but how many years does it take you to write 35 books?
Well, so I didn't publish book 1, of course. I Nearly Departed in Deadwood, which published, like I said, January 2011, was book 8 that I had written. And then I came back and I pulled up book 5 and 6, which was Jackrabbit Junction Mystery Series number 1 and 2. Fixed him up, polished him up, and then those came out as well as the second Deadwood. And then I had one more that I had, written before out of those initial 7 that I worked on again. And that was Look What the Wind Blew in, the first in the Dig Site series. But other than that, I've been doing it since 2011, adding to that. So some years, 3 3 books a year, some years 2 and a novella. I mean, I wish I was as fast. As there's a lot of amazing authors that will write books in, 3 months or what, sometimes less. And I can't do that. Plus I write 125, 135,000 word books. So they're not, I wish I could write 60,000 word books, because I think I could, of course I could go faster a little bit, but my brain is like, oh no, we have a long story to tell. So just sit down, calm down, and get ready for the ride, because we're going to do this again.
Yeah, I can write a book in about 3 months. But like, that's the first draft. By the time it's edited and all that kind of stuff, you're talking 6 months, easy. So.
And that's pretty much me. It takes me 3 to 4 to write them. Oh, probably 4 is better. And then a month of the editing process that I go through, including a professional editor and some beta, before it'll come live. So 6 months is pretty much my average, I would say.
Yeah,
well, I think that's amazing, because most, I remember when I used to read authors when I was growing up, and you get a book out, and it doesn't matter whether it's 400 pages, 600 pages, you would wait 2 to 3 years for the next
right.
book.
Yeah.
And then you'd almost be forced to go back and read the other ones just to catch up on the story.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what they used to do back then, maybe it's because they use those old clunky typewriters.
Well, I know from a friend of mine that has been with some more, the bigger publishing houses, that you have to get fit into the schedule, of course. Mm-hmm. And so you're going, it might be a year or 2 out before you're slated. So, and that's just her experience. So I don't know, ever for all, but that's where with indie and, some of the small presses, it can go differently, because of course, you just don't have all the other authors waiting in line, with the marketing budget that has to go to them.
I actually read somewhere that with Stephen King, they wouldn't actually let him publish more than 1 book a year. And so that's why he actually started writing on the pen then, so that he could actually sneak in more books and release them.
Oh, that makes sense.
And like, it was kind of like, crazy. This is Stephen King. Why would you not want to publish a Stephen King book?
Well, because it's
right.
Also his other book, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's bizarre, because if you like Stephen King, you buy both books then instead of just the one.
I know. It must have. I mean, I don't know, but it must have been something marketing, because I know all the things they have to do to put, to promote and sell and put all the sales into, to get each book to make its money. I'm sure it takes some time with marketing and promotion and all that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'd be interesting to ask him why.
No doubt, because it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, because it's Stephen King. So I think if he published 100 books a year, people just buy 100 books a year. Like and you don't have to market him. Like me, you have to market, because no one knows who I am. So I got to market myself. But Stephen King, everyone knows who he is. He puts out a black cover and he sells millions of books.
Yeah.
So, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Anne, you describe your books as multi-genre mysteries, and I'm kind of curious to know how that developed. Is that what you've always written, or did you specialize in one genre earlier and then kind of branch out, or how did all that come about?
Well, way back when I first started writing those early, like I said, those first 7 books, a couple of them, the first 2 or 3 were romances, because I had read, I'd read Stephen King, I'd read Westerns, I read romances growing up. So I thought of those 3, I could try my hand at a romance. And it turns out that I'm really bad at just writing straight, plain old romances, because, and it gave me a lot of respect for those good romance books I have read, because of all the work that goes into the emotions, and all that level. So I quickly learned, with the help of my critique group, that no, I shouldn't just be writing plain old romances, because I'm not good enough to just pull that off. So, and that was in the early years as I was developing, the writing style. And it just seemed like I kept adding more action, adventure, mystery, dead body parts. Things were pop like that. Dead body parts really mix well with the romance genre usually. So it kind of went into more, I think I'm into the mystery genre, a little bit more with the way I structure too. So I kind of realized, oh, I like to tell this kind of a story, so it's more fit. And so it was more just what kept coming out as I kept trying to write another book and trying to write another book, and finally realizing, oh, I'm going to mix these genres because I can't pick a team, because I like them all and I want them all in there. And then I was trying to promote those, or sell those books to publishers way back when, and they were like, could you just pick one? Could you be mystery or could you be romance? Stop doing this, 40, 40 and 20%. What is that other 20%? We can't even tell, because they of course want to put it on a bookshelf back then. We're talking pre lots of ebooks, because I'm, like we talked about, I'm old. So, we're talking back when you had to put a bookshelf, fit it somewhere. And so it really just kept developing. And I'm so glad I came along when the ebooks did start becoming something in indie publishing, because I could find other people that liked the mix, and I didn't have to change my style to fit. Oh, okay, I got to have 70% mystery, and I got to cut back some of the other stuff. I didn't have to do that. I could leave the stuff I wanted in and mix it up more. So to me, one of the best things about indie publishing that's come along for all of us as readers is that we're getting to have a mix of stories and genres that, instead of, a group of people are choosing in the marketing department, what they're going to market a big company. Of course, they have to pick and choose. They can only publish so many, but we're able to now have so many more options and genre mixes and stuff to choose from. That doesn't mean it's not getting hard, because there are so many out there, but it allowed, I think, a closer relationship between the author and the readers.
Definitely. So what mix would you say this current series is that you're about to publish a new book in? I think you said Deadwood Undertakers. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the Deadwood Undertaker series, and it's set back in the 1870s during the Deadwood Gold Rush times. And I think we read that before, didn't we? You guys were doing the Western hats, didn't we do that? So this is a mix of Western, supernatural. So we're mixing up, the fun of those two together. And humor is in there, a borderline, a little bit, some of the things that are a little scary. So almost into the horror a little bit, but not full. It's not a horror story. So it's a real mix of, that kind of the supernatural playing in with, some of the regular stuff, which is fun. I mean, I always wanted to write a Western. Now, my husband plays a big part in this, so it's not like I wrote the Western. We put this together, but it's fun to get to play in that world, because any writes historical stuff, you can't screw that up. You can't just, I'm going to throw this gun in, or I'm going to throw this word in that's from 1950s. You can't. You have to be accurate to the time, which is a challenge. So it's really, I have a lot of respect also for historical authors, because of what they have to do to make sure they get it right. Because readers will let you know if you don't.
I noticed actually in the excerpt we're going to be reading later on that you actually mentioned a quite rare pistol, actually, the Lamat revolver.
Yes. Yes.
Which kind of like caught my eye. I used to be involved in shooting, so I actually kind of, very interesting. So how did that come about?
That's my husband. He loves that kind of stuff. Like, we went to Gettysburg this year, and I'm pretty sure that's one of them we found on the wall. When you go inside Gettysburg Memorial, you can see the wall of the different weapons that were being used during that, battle and that time. And so I think I remember him showing me that one right there, and as well as the Sharps rifle and the different things that are in there. But yeah, that's where, again, if I were to even try this, I would have to watch many, 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 historical shows. I'd have to do a lot of research into something. And since I have multiple series, that's just something that I have the time to do, which is what's wonderful with co-writing with someone, is that you share the research, you share so many parts of the story. So yes, that's how he enjoys all the historical stuff. And when we go to Deadwood, because there really is a town called Deadwood, South Dakota. And it's just like you've seen in HBO Deadwood. I mean, a lot of that, characters, are kind of based on the real life experiences. So we'll go to the library and do, spend time researching and just hanging out in there, reading and, trying to keep it so it can be sort of, accurate to the time and place.
So it's another genre that's mixed in there. Maybe
yes.
Historical. It may not be like super strict or anything, but it sounds like you do your research and stick with the words that were around and everything. So that is still historical.
Yes, and that's kind of fun, actually. If you go and you look at some of the old words, phrases and things that were said back then, it's so colorful. So much of their language, or not their language, but what they used at that time is colorful in its own way. So it's a lot of fun, to go back and research even the words and how they said stuff.
Definitely agree. And you said that, you co-author this with your husband. And I wonder if you ever have trouble working together, or if it's like total smooth sailing, because it can be tricky critiquing somebody that you care about, and not hurting their feelings, but at the same time being like, this doesn't really work,
Right. Well, that's what we get asked that periodically. What happens if you disagree? And if we disagree, well, then we fight. We're going to argue just like anything else. But in the end, exactly. In the end, whoever, feels the strongest, I think, about a certain, whether it's a passage or something that's going to happen, whoever feels the strongest and pushes, the hardest, pretty much wins. I mean, and that's, how it goes. And so much in life is, if you really feel strongly about something, well, then you let it be known. And then, okay, let's do it that way. And we'll make it work. So yeah, it's a lot of back and forth. But there's a lot of research that goes into it. So it's a real mix of duties in what we do. And he writes the first draft, which is, that's tons of work right there. So we brainstorm together, then he'll write parts, then I'll go through and here's another challenge that comes in with that series. So it's the Deadwood Undertaker series, which is the prequel to the Deadwood mystery series that I write. So, and that happens modern day Deadwood, and it has a supernatural world, of course, supernatural. So I'm getting ready to start book 13 of that world. So there's already rules. There's things, every world you create has rules with the supernatural. So there's a lot of rules that were set in place before we even started, because I think I wrote book 9 and then we started this other series. So we had a lot was set in place. So we also have to fit within the world, but yet it's historical, so it's it's a challenge in its own way to come in and go, oh no, that can't happen, because over in the contemporary series, we have this happening with this particular character. That's a supernatural that can go between, could be in both stories. So there's a lot of work that goes into, just writing these, and that we have to stay within the worlds created.
No, absolutely.
But it's fun for a reader, if you're into the series.
Yeah, no, I've got 14 books out now, and the last in the series is the first that I wrote. So trying to keep my story on point with what's going on at the very end, it certainly is a challenge, but there's also the benefit of I've already put that lore in my head, so now I can go back, and so I already have the story there, like at least the roots of the story, and it gives me something to build upon. I just have to make sure that it's accurate towards the end, so that my original readers won't call me out on it for sure.
Exactly. Well, yeah, they don't. So yeah, it takes some, it takes some work on its own. Notes. We have a doc that one of the readers, she's been a long time friend and reader, that she keeps in OneNote, Microsoft's OneNote, where she keeps track of the story worlds. So she keeps track of each different series story world. So it's really helpful to have that for me, especially if I'm checking let's go back and look at, what we have in the contemporary. Let's figure out that. And if we can fit this within that with what's already in there, and what was the description of this, particular supernatural beast again, and go back and then make a match. So yeah, it's fun. I mean, it makes it a challenge, but I think as authors, if there's no challenge to writing the story, for me at least, it would get boring. I need something to make it so that I'm into it and excited about it.
Yeah. So you'd be kind of cross-checking back and forth between those two series, wouldn't you? Because one is in the future and the history has to support it, and then one, vice versa and everything. That's a
Right.
lot. Yeah, that's complex. Wow.
Well, there is. I mean, there's just the name of one of the creatures, supernatural creatures we finished, and I said we have to go back and look at Deadwood Mystery Series number 6. Meanwhile, back in Deadwood, and at the very end, that creature's name is mentioned. The name that's mentioned in the description anymore. So let's double check it to make sure we did stuff. And I mean, there's characters that in the old one, whether they become ghosts in the new one or if they're just from somewhere else. So you have to make sure you're sticking close with what they are, what I wrote in the modern, and then making it work in the past. But it can be really fun for readers though too if you seed it right. So it's like, there's so and so when they were, like there's one she's Prudence the ghost in the contemporary series. And she's a real, oh boy, she is mean. But you meet her in person in the old one, and you understand why she is what she is. I mean, she's not just mean; she's strong for a ghost, and she's tough, and she doesn't take any flack. And so, meeting the real one is real kind of fun because then you see what she was like as a person, before, and then what happened? How did she get to this? So I think it can make it fun if you like worlds, and having reading series in different worlds and stuff like that.
I think that.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we're talking about your friend and keeping track of your storylines and stuff like that. I saw on your blog that you have quizzes, and I think that's absolutely brilliant. And I do something similar to that when I do an author takeover, but I never include as many questions as you put in there. And I think it's an awesome way to get your faithful readers to interact with the story, and that it's almost like a trivia session where they have to go back if they can recall the books and everything else. And do you find it hard to come up with 20 questions? You got 20 questions for each of these books, and
that was because of the reader I told you about, as well as one or two others throwing questions at me. Because that was part of, I think that was early on in COVID. We were doing a lot more online, so I was trying to interact online, and do stuff since we couldn't do signing, you couldn't do. So we started with book 1, and every week or every 2 weeks we do like a book club online, and so we'd pick a book, and go through the series, and then have questions that we'd throw out there, and so it was really fun. It was a great way to interact with everybody, and get them to play along and test their hand. And some questions are easy and some are not so easy. So it was a lot of fun coming up with that. I should probably do that. But I think we went through all the different books. That's how, it was COVID. It took forever.
A great way to interact with your faithful readers, because they would love to go through there and see if they can remember everything and how high they can score in a quiz. Yeah,
exactly.
That's really cool.
Most of my books have a kind of common universe going into the future, including my short stories. And so I often will kind of drop in a character just in the background from one of my earlier stories. And in actual fact, one story was entirely written due to another story where I kind of happened to mention that this guy had rescued Elvis 7. And my wife was so intrigued by this that she said, "Oh, you should write a story about that." She said, because that'd be good. And it's and I thought, no, I'm not going to write a story about Elvis. I don't care about Elvis. And anyway, it must have kept lingering in the back of my head, because one day I suddenly, I know what that story is. And so I wrote it and did it. And so it was but it's crazy. They kind of these characters kind of crop up as little hidden sort of links between the different stories, which I think is really fun.
Right. Yeah. Whenever, so all of my series pretty much there's connections, there's crossover characters. So I kind of think of it as I'm building this world, you know, or like I think archaeology for some reason, and like there's temples over here, and that's part of this Deadwood mystery series. And then over here, I'm working on these particular temples and all this stuff over here. That's the Jackrabbit series. But yet you can cross to each one, you know, and there's crossover characters and all this stuff. Because I'm the type of reader that loves to have a world that, you know, maybe I'll see a cameo from someone in another book, and it's exciting and it's fun. That's just the way I enjoy stories and the world building. So that was one of the things I wanted to do when I started writing, was with all the different series, have where they're all interconnected in some way. So if you're finished one series and you're waiting because I'm taking 4 to 6 months to write a book, then you can go over to this other series and you'll find some of the characters that visit, or, you know, kind of mixing up to make it more fun that way while you wait.
Mm.
That's interesting. Lambert, he loves the fantasy genre, so he's right into great maps. Do you have maps in your books?
I do.
I know it takes place on Earth, but you know, maps are still helpful, especially these towns.
I do, especially in the first few of the ones, like for the Jackrabbit series. There's a map with some of the, you know, the campground and the different areas, and then in the Deadwood series, the modern day one, we had a map we made of Deadwood based off one of their actual city maps, and then you know, like the Deadwood Library, which is a public building, I can use that just as it is because it's public. But if it's something, a private building, well, then I'll make up a fake name and plant it somewhere, you know, the characters' houses. But it's on real streets. It's on places. And this next month, we're going for the 10th annual Deadwood Fan Party that we put on every year. And one of the things we've done is we've chartered a bus so that we can ride on the bus, and part of the tour will be just the regular Deadwood tour this company does. But part of the tour, I'll be on there with them, and I'll be saying, this is where Violet Parker lives. This is where, the old Deadwood Undertaker series, here's where the pyre is located in old Deadwood, you know. And so we can go around with the readers that attend and show them the different locations to get even, you know, a more solid idea in their mind. And that's really fun. But and in this new book, The Backside of Hades, it takes place in a little mining thing outside of Deadwood. So my husband, who used to make maps in our previous job life, he's made really cool maps to where, okay, you start with this map, and then as you read a chapter and the characters move to the next place during this story, you'll find the next map, and the characters are written on the map and stuff. And so through the whole book, it's one of the fun things we wanted to do was have the same map that keeps getting added to, so that you move and you can understand where the characters are going as they battle different things and you know, find different things. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to do. So I do love to play with maps too.
Mm-hmm. And I think
we do.
I think in the interest of getting your story in here before we run out of time, I think this is a good segue into the live read of your story. So if you want to set it up for us, if Dave,
sure.
Dave and Christy, if you're ready to assume your roles.
I'll do my
Sure. So this is, like I said, this is from the Deadwood Undertaker series. It's book 4. The Backside of Hades is what it's called. Oh, good. Nice hat. I like it. You guys, last time, yes, you had your hats. That was perfect.
I need to buy one. Oh my God.
There's 4 characters in this scene. There's Boone McCreary, Jack Fields. Those guys are 2 longtime friends. And Hank Varney and Clementine Johansson. And Clementine is the Deadwood Undertaker. She's kind of the one that's the badass of them. This is what she does. So yeah, Christy's going to play Clementine. And then Hank has been Clementine's assistant for some time, and he's the oldest of them all, but he's good with arrows, and he's just a lot of fun. So that's kind of a background on the characters. And then I'm going to also narrate it. So as you guys read your lines, I'll do the he said's and all that stuff in between, right? Let's do it like last time. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this takes place, it's really, really late, 1876 in Deadwood, Dakota Territory. So anyway, Boone McCreary pushed aside a branch of the scrubby bush, concealing him and his companions to peek at the rickety log cabin, half buried by drifted snow. He squinted against the early morning light. There was no smoke coming from the chimney.
Definitely somebody in there. can't see
he
who or
said.
what, though.
It's Drog.
Clementine Johansson stood tall next to Boone, almost his height, short a couple inches, with her arms crossed over her thick wool coat. Her expression was as cold and stony as the rocky outcrop behind them.
And it isn't just one, it's a small herd. 8 or 10, I'd guess.
Of course, we're not even in Slagton yet.
Anxiety dropped a pile of stones in his belly at the notion of riding into the small mining town that was supposedly overrun with
Draug.
Boone repeated, sniffing the cold, dry air.
The diseased, abnormally strong, rotting carcasses of the dearly departed being used as an army by a malevolent usurper who means to take the Black Hills as a prize, killing anything that gets in his way?
He shivered against a frigid gust.
You mean that kind of Draug?
She turned to Boone, lines fanning out from the corners of her gray eyes.
Don't forget shapeshifting.
What?
He'd heard her, but his sensibilities didn't allow him to believe it.
Shapeshifting.
Clementine shrugged.
Of course, I don't believe that, or that Draug can grow to colossal size. Those are myths,
She bit her lower lip.
I think.
What?
Boone said again. He was listening more intently now, but still having some difficulty comprehending.
You need help making sentences there, Booney?
Jack Rabbitfields piped in, joining them. After a glance through the branches, he grinned big and fluttered his eyelashes at Boone, while skinning his pistol and spinning the cylinder. Quick as chain lightning, his expression sobered and his brow furrowed.
I'm good for 4, maybe 6. You stand behind me, Booney. Don't want you getting hurt.
Shut up, Rabbit.
Boone shook his head. After spending the better part of his life with Mr. Quickdraw, who'd become as close to him as a brother before they were even knee-high to a grasshopper, Boone knew Rabbit was just as nervous as he was. He reached for his pistol too, but changed his mind and instead grabbed the handle of his black-bladed scimitar. They were holstered deep in a Black Hills bitter cold winter. Boone and his companions, with their mounts alongside, had opted to spend the night out away from Slagton, since none of them carried any intention of approaching the sinister little camp in the dark. Not even Clementine, who'd faced off against a town full of Draug in her blood-stained past. Boone measured last night in the woods one of the coldest, most fitful and frigid he'd ever had the displeasure of spending under the stars, even though Rabbit's complaints had helped keep the campsite warm till almost midnight. And his list of expletives was far more colorful than Boone's in spite of the presence of a female. So far, things weren't looking any better in the morning light. Clementine had been quiet since they'd left Deadwood. She wasn't usually a prattler, and on this trip especially not. Boone could see she was uneasy, apprehensive even. Her normally stoic demeanor was absent, replaced by repeated shifting, twitching almost, both in and out of her saddle, undoubtedly due to her past experiences dealing with Draug. He didn't blame her. The description alone of the abominations nearly curdled his blood. "Somebody just tell me what I'm shooting at," Hank Varney spoke up from behind them. Boone turned to see the well-weathered man jerk his new Lamat pistol from the holster. Ice crystals in his finger-length beard added sparkles to his appearance, matching those in his eyes. He was ready to ride to Hades and back, if that was where Clementine went. Rabbit put his hand to the side of his face.
You're so strong and brave, Hank,
he said in a high-pitched, dainty voice, pretending to swoon. "Now cut that out, Jackrabbit. Like to make me blush." Hank lowered his pistol and punched Rabbit on the shoulder. Clementine peered at the cabin around a branch.
You can't use that pistol, Hank. You'll bring every creature in a half-mile radius down on us. Besides, it's best.
Let me guess.
Boone cut in.
Take the heads.
Rabbit finished before Boone had the chance. Clementine nodded, stepping away from the branch.
Leave Fred the mule and the horses here. We may make camp back here tonight. They can make their way back to Deadwood if necessary.
Without a backward glance, she took off for the cabin in long strides.
There she goes.
Boone sprang after her, followed by Rabbit and Hank. Boone wondered if Clementine knew how predictable she was when it came to dispatching the otherworldly and often not human troublemakers that she referred to as others, or in this case, the ambulating remains of several dead humans somehow roam in the forest.
Damn it, Miss Clementine.
Rabbit said in a loud whisper as he fell into a jogging step next to Boone.
No guns.
Clementine said over her shoulder.
God darn it, Booney. No guns?
Rabbit holstered his pistol and skinned one of the 5 throwing knives from his belt sheath.
You know, well as I do.
Boone rushed to keep up with Clementine. Rabbit sheathed his throwing knife.
This is close in fighting, and I ain't none too fond of it. So gonna need my Bowie.
He grabbed the gigantic knife from his boot without missing a step. Hank chuffed like a locomotive coming along behind. Rather stick an arrow, he puffed and sucked in a breath. Into myself, Jackrabbit.
Want to trade?
Rabbit pointed his Bowie at Boone's sword. Boone scoffed.
Not today, but I'll keep an eye on you in case you get yourself into a pickle.
Boone rested his scimitar on his shoulder as they approached the cabin.
Clementine,
He whispered when he caught up with her.
you have a plan?
Sure. Kill everything in that cabin.
Da-da-dun.
Da-da-da.
That was good.
I like Clementine.
Oh, she's bad. She's a badass, man. She's tough. So she's the one on the cover of the first book, Deadwood Undertaker series, Life with Coffin Joint, that has her legs and a claw thing in her that she's wearing on her hand. That's Clementine. So she's a lot of fun.
Cool.
Thank you, guys. That was fun.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, that was good. Oh, we really enjoyed doing that. Thank you for agreeing to do that. They're always fun to do.
Oh yeah, it was great. It's good.
CJ's asking, did you chop down my backyard tree, Richard?
It's funny. You do great props. I always I want to look up for reading because I want to see what prop you're doing or what you're doing.
I know. I'm always trying to bring up the screen in between. So I can see what they're doing.
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
they're a lot of fun to do for sure.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
So who is your, well, I don't know if you can answer this because many people can't, but who is your favorite character that we just read? Like your favorite character to write?
Oh boy, that's tough. They're so much fun. Each of them has that. I mean, you have Rabbit and Boone who grew up together, and so they're probably in their late 20s, and so they have a long history, like brothers, and there's lots of fun stuff. But Hank, the more you get into, learn about Hank Varney, he has a way of saying stuff and doing things that's just funny, entertaining, and his stories of old. He's always got these old stories, the old timer coming in. But then Clementine's a blast because she's so strong and tough. We have her about 6'1" is what she stands. So she's, big Viking ancestry. So she's like this big Viking that comes in and
just like Christy.
Yeah,
I am
exactly. Big tough. So it's a fun series to write and explore, and like I said, you get to do the Western and have that bit in there too. So it's fun.
Tell us then, Anne, if you could turn one of your books into a movie, which would it be, and who would you get to play the roles?
I don't know the roles. That's too hard. But I probably, I don't know. See, the Jackrabbit Junction, there's 3 sisters, and they're fun. They're always getting into trouble, landing in jail, getting back out, and they're just a lot of fun together. And I've, way back when I first started writing that, the first one, the middle one, Claire, who started it all, that was Sandra Bullock, way back when I started in my mind. Of course, we've all aged considerably since then, but just that kind of, yeah, I don't know how she's doing it either. So, I kind of like that. But then I also love the Deadwood series with Violet, but that's all inside the head. Do you guys remember that old show with Calissa Flockhart where Alec McBeal, I think it was, the lawyer, where you're always in her head and you'd hear her inner monologue? Mm-hmm. So you'd need to do the inner monologue, I think, for the Deadwood series to get the humor that, she'll say something with a smile, but in her head she's thinking, something very different. So then the West would be awesome to see on the big screen, you know, as they did some of the, you know, and Westerns are, you know, a little popular again. So I'll take any of them, any of the fun stuff. Let's just do them all. You know, let me visit each, you know, movie scene site or whatever. And have fun.
How about the music then?
The what? The music?
Music, yeah. If you had a musical score for this.
Oh boy, I actually listened to. My son got me on this. I don't know. They're not a group. They're musicians. 2 Steps from Hell, I think it's called, and they do a lot of amazing. Yeah, they're so good. So I'll listen to them just playing in the background constantly. And then there was also a lot of good music with Robin Hood, the one with Russell Crowe and Cate Blanchett, I think is that her name. There's a lot of good music in that I found that works well with writing this kind of actiony stuff. So we do listen to a lot of different, just that kind of music when we're writing, especially, you know, the action scenes and stuff. My husband will have it in there cranked, and he's listening away as he's typing. So I don't have set scores, but I do like, you know, some of the gaming world stuff they do now. That's awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, a game of some of your books.
That would be cool, because you could have all the different worlds, you know, all the different story worlds connecting. Yeah, that would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Possibilities nowadays, for sure.
I'd play that. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Cross the worlds and go do this one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit. We're just about at the end, Anne. So tell us a little bit more. This is going to be releasing. Do you actually have a date set in October?
Well, we're going, like I said, to the Deadwood fan party in mid-October, and we're going to have copies of the print book for that. So I'm trying really hard right now to get the print done, and then we figure we'll come back from that and we'll get the ebook out by, I think we set a date for it's October 20th or 24th or something like that, 22nd. It's pretty new, so it's in my calendar, but that's when it will all be available. So toward the end of October. And then the audiobook, we do have a narrator that reads all these books, and he'll get the book then probably early November, and maybe that'll be out first of the year. We've got all the other ones in the audiobook by him, but this will, you know, he'll have to read it, of course, fit it in his schedule.
So is it up for pre-order, or that isn't done yet?
That is not it yet, because I don't know about you guys, but I hear so many horror stories about the pre-order options in Amazon and things that go wrong. That now I've gotten to the point where we put it up, and we might do pre-order if we have the file ready ahead of time, but I don't like to put a fake file in as a placeholder, because the horror stories of what's gone wrong. Yeah. So we won't put a file in until we have the final file. And if we're ahead of our date, we'll just do it as a pre-order. Otherwise, we'll just release it on the date.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't put any stock into pre-orders anymore either. I just think they're a lot of work for no gain.
Yeah, it just seems like what used to be the way it used to work. I know readers like them, so they'll buy it, and then they don't have to worry about, forgetting about it and it just drops on their Kindle. But just like I said, the nightmares you read on from other authors about how things go wrong. There's enough stress in a release, you guys know, as it is. Do I need to add something more to make me, just the whole time? No.
No, absolutely.
As for this fan party, Anne, I was like, okay, so the big question: how do we get an invite?
Go to my website. We have the forms and all that. But yeah, we have. It's a lot of fun, and this year we have 3 book signings, the fan party. We've got a paranormal investigation at one of the big haunted houses that's there with a paranormal investigative team that does this. So they bring all their really cool gadgets and things, and you get to hold stuff and walk around and be part of that investigation. And then we also, like I said, have the bus tour we're doing this year. So, and then at the fan party, we have a guest author, C.M. Wendelboe, who writes mysteries. So it's a great time. We spend about 4 or 5 days together, going to different restaurants and doing all kinds of stuff. So, and if people come in from all over, it's really amazing, from all over the U.S. We've had, in the years before COVID, we had several coming down from Canada. So people come from all over for it, because they get to see it's like going to see Harry Potter World in Florida, at Disney or wherever. It's not Disney, Universal Studios, whichever one has it. You can go there and see it. And that's the cool thing about Deadwood, is you can go see it. And we've mixed a real town into the stories. So you can see it brings it to life even more, which is a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So what's new after this? So once you guys finish this book and get it out there, what's next?
Then I have to write Deadwood 13, the Deadwood Mystery Series, the contemporary book 13, because it's been 2 years almost since that book, and that's the main series. And I think if I go much longer, they might hunt me down. And put me in the basement.
Spirits, yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm going to write the 13th book of the Deadwood Mystery Series. While my husband gets started on book 5 of the Undertaker series, we'll still be doing that. And then once that's done, I need to write book 3 of my dig site mystery series that takes place down in the Yucatan. So I need to I get to come up with a whole new archaeological dig site, because I create those, based on research, and I make my own, and I get to build temples and create the whole history of the site, which is a lot of fun for me. So I'll be doing that after I write Deadwood 13.
Awesome. And of course, you're going to include dig site maps.
Yes. There's maps in the front of each dig site book is a different dig site, and you get a whole new map for that particular dig site, which is a lot of fun.
And when you sell the book, you get a little rock that's attached to it. That'd be really cool.
That would be really cool, wouldn't it? Something Maya that goes with it.
Yeah. So thank you, Anne, for coming back on with us today, and especially doing that reading. We really enjoyed doing that with you, and I'm sure the viewers loved hearing your story, and can't wait for it to come out next month. And
thank you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anne, I keep cutting you off.
No, I was just gonna say thank you for having me on. I appreciate that. I keep cutting you off.
No. That's the joy of doing this live. Every time you think someone stopped, you jump in and then they're going again. No worries. So thank you again for coming on. And before we leave, Christy, what's new with you?
I had another episode of Corrupted Magic come out. This is episode 8. So that one is out. Woo! Very exciting. I'm always excited about those. And I just finished writing episode 13, and that's got a lot of excitement in it. A full-on battle scene, Victorian battle scenes. Fun,
Victorian
right?
battle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gang wars
Sarah Martin coming up, yeah.
Yeah, some very exciting things coming up. So, still going on the weekly schedule. It's working out just great. So that's what you guys can look forward to. You can head over to, that just got published yesterday on Kindle Vella, if you read there, and on Patreon, it was published like 3 days ago. So if you want to read it in advance, it's patreon.com/Christy Stratus. So that's what's new with me. How about you, David?
Well, I've carried on working on the next of my Hyperion Jones series. I'm now just over 20,000 words into that, so that's going well.
Nice.
What else is going on? Oh, yes, a very big plumbing incident this afternoon. So I've only got water in half of my house at the moment. And on Thursday, I leave to go up to Thunder Bay for the big ThunderCon all weekend. So I'm not going to be able to do anything about that until I get back.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, so I will be up in Thunder Bay at ThunderCon on Saturday and Sunday this week, which is a very long 11-hour drive for me.
Wow.
Both ways, so it's going to take us a couple of days to get up and a couple of days to get back, but I'm hoping I will be here for next Tuesday, although I might be completely jet lagged.
Might be more fun.
So that's awesome, Dave. Yeah, and good luck at the ThunderCon. Let me know how it goes. I've often thought about going to ThunderCon as well. It'd be as far west as I've ever been selling books, but it's just such a hike. It's 11 to 12 hours for Dave, and we're another 5 hours south of Dave. So
Wow.
I'm thinking, if I fly, how do I fly all those books? Like, it just cost me too much. So I'm not sure how to go about it. But anyway, in the Soulforge universe, Windwalker is finally releasing this week. It's releasing on Friday. I still don't have print books in hand, but I'm supposed to be picking them up on the latest Friday morning in Toronto. I don't look forward to that drive either. That's almost like a 12-hour drive just driving into Toronto. It's just horrible. But so anyway, Windwalker is, and I've just been sitting back and doing nothing this week other than, I guess I was putting notes together for When Legends Rise, which is book 4 in that series. But I've just been taking it easy this week just to let my brain relax, because it's just been high-strung since April trying to get this book out. So
Sure.
A lot of relief. And just like Dave, I'll be attending a book fair this weekend. I'll be at the Royal Medieval Fair in Waterloo Park. So if anyone is in Southern Ontario and you want to go to, it's like a Red Fest, you'll see knights battling it out in Kings and Queens, and I'll be there selling my wares as well. So we look forward to the Royal Medieval Fair every year. And then on Sunday, I'll be in Cambridge at another book event. It's actually a vendor's event. I'll be selling my books there, though, so hopefully that'll go well. Yeah. And that's it for me. And next week, we are going to have a show. I only have to write up for Meg, and I don't know why we don't have the second one, but we have horror fiction authors Meg Halfdahl, I'm probably saying her name wrong, and Kelly Florence. And Meg Halfdahl is a creator of numerous stories and books. Her fiction has appeared in anthologies such as Eve's Requiem, Tales of Women, Mystery and Horror, and Eclectically, oh, that's a tough one. Criminal. I'm just going to leave that one alone. Meg, also the co-host of the podcast. I'm going to get Christy to read that at the beginning of next week's show.
I'm sure you will.
Meg, also the co-host of the podcast Horror Rewind and co-author of The Science of Monsters, The Science of Women in Horror, The Science of Stephen King, well, that'd be interesting, and The Science of Serial Killers, and the upcoming The Science of Witchcraft. So I'm looking forward to that. Lives in the snowy bluffs of Minnesota. So I'll be looking forward to speaking to those two authors. And again, thank you, Anne, for joining us. We welcome back. We really appreciate you coming back and participating on our show.
Thank you for having me. It was a great time every time. So let's do it again someday.
We will. When you have another
I'll get all women scenes so that you guys have to talk like women, and you'll dress up for me. Yeah.
Richard would love that.
They're really good with that. You want to do that.
That'd be good.
I take a back seat when it's women. So.
All right, let's do that next time.
I want to see Christy with a beard.
That'd be good.
Oh,
so anyway, until next week, for Christy, Dave, myself, and Ann this week, until we meet again, take good care.
Good night.